Good morning and welcome to the DFS Army YouTube channel. I'm Razzle11 and you can find me on X at Razzle11Grinds. I'm here to take a look at pitching for today, the 8th of August. It is Saturday. We have a 3-game early slate. There's a 3-game turbo slate and then a 9-game main slate this evening. I'm going to look at the 3-game early and then the 9-game main slate as our main target this evening. A reminder that this is a first look at the options on the slate, and I will be looking at DraftKings as that is where majority of my action is. If you're playing FanDuel, cut my pool in half or so. Pricing isn't quite as tight. You don't have to be as creative. It allows you to get stacks you want with an upper tier-ish pitcher. Now it's said and done. Let's just jump right in. I had been looking at this turbo or early slate because I had started my notes on the website. This is a slate where I think all 6 pitchers are in play, and I'm going to explain why. Boston's going to be super popular the way that they've been performing offensively, so it makes sense. Gage Jump is a guy that does have talent. There is upside in his arm. He actually dominated this Boston squad, just 11 days ago, roughly. And that's in the midst of this great run that Boston is on. So it's not like he got them when they were ice cold. 27 fantasy points was his second best start at the major league level. The big worry here, though, is his walk rate has skyrocketed. That's kind of an issue, and that's a worry. With that said, the Boston bats are going to be the most popular on this slate, and if you want to gain a little bit of leverage, Gage Jump is the way to go. There is a ton of volatility at this point, but his road numbers are phenomenal so far. So he's kind of that guy that I actually want to play him more than Urania, to be honest. Urania's got a couple of strong starts, coming off an elite start against Milwaukee of all teams. And Miami's weaker than Milwaukee offensively, but Miami doesn't necessarily strike out a ton. I don't know. It's tough. I wouldn't blame you for owning Gage Jump more than Urania and even Garrett Cole against Atlanta. Now, Garrett Cole's looked good over his last 4 starts and 5 out of his last 6. Atlanta comes in overall swinging it pretty well. They weren't great last night. Cole traditionally has dominated some of the guys in the Atlanta lineup, so I understand it. I don't know. I'm just kind of looking at this 3-gamer a little bit different angle, because we kind of have to get unique in some combinations. So, Jake Bennett wasn't the strongest against this Athletic squad in 2 starts ago. Hasn't been super great over the last 3 runs allowed in each of them. Just 4 strikeouts. 4 strikeouts is the high over his last 5 starts, to be honest. Not a huge K guy overall, so we can't really expect a ton of upside, but this A's lineup is just so weak without Langeliers, Rooker, Kurtz. Jacob Wilson had been out. I think he returned. But just overall, the lineup is just weakened without their main pieces in the middle of it. So Jake Bennett's going to be somewhat popular. Alcantara is probably my favorite pitcher on the slate. Obviously, we know the elite K upside that the Angels provide. He's much better when pitching at home, which is where he's at this evening. So to me, he makes the most sense. Chris Sale's probably up there. 30 plus, 29 plus in 3 straight. So he's just coming in elite form. 26 strikeouts over his last 19 innings, 20 strikeouts in his last 12. The Yankees are atrocious against left-handed pitching because they are so left-hand heavy from their main bats that it's just such a great matchup for Sale. And the fact that he's sub 10K even on a 3-gamer is just phenomenal, or just wild, one of the two. Switching over to the main slate, we got 9 games to choose from here. Let's just jump right in and look at each game. I haven't seen any weather updates, so we're going to take everything for what it is. Seth Lugo, somebody that I'm just not using. If he dominates the Cubs somehow, so be it. I will gladly pass on that. No, he is decent at home for what it's worth. Just 5 home runs allowed in 69 and a third innings. Just overall, from a run prevention standpoint, he's solid at home. Just 4 wins in 23 starts. That hurts his fantasy point upside. Clay Holmes set to make his debut with the Chicago Cubs. I'm not sure that I'm going to get there on Clay Holmes. Obviously, it's been on the IL for a while, nearly 3 months. 73 pitches in his last minor league start. So he should be lengthened out decently enough, but Clay Holmes is just not a guy that I normally play anyway, so I think I can easily pass on him. Very interested to just see how he works within the Cubs rotation. Felt like the trade deadline people overvalued him a little bit, so maybe I'll eat some words and he'll perform in the last 2 months for the Cubs. Twins Brewers, Robert Gasser, gonna be somebody I'm gonna play just because the Twins can struggle enough. They didn't struggle last night against Strohan. Gasser's a little bit better. Doesn't really walk as many guys. Obviously has had some walk issues randomly. Maybe not as much K upside as Strohan could have, but I think Gasser's just a little bit better. So I am gonna want to get a little bit of exposure to him. He wasn't very good against the Twins the first time he faced them, but pitching at home, 15 fantasy points roughly per start at home. Decent numbers, just 4 home runs allowed in 31 and 2/3, compared to 7 and 30 and 2/3 on the road. I think Gasser's somebody that we can sprinkle in. Taj Bradley coming off of a really rough start. He's not as strong on the road. Walk rate skyrockets, home runs allowed rate skyrockets as well. Just a lot more base runners on the road. I am going to mix them in, just not. I don't want to be very heavy. I don't really love left-handed or right-handed pitchers against Milwaukee. It's the left-handed pitchers that I prefer, but it's really hard to turn down the upside that Taj Bradley has showcased this season with multiple 30-plus fantasy point starts. One of which on the road, double-digit strikeouts in 3 out of his last, 7 starts. So the K upside is there, and because that ceiling is so high, I want to make sure I get a little bit of exposure in my pool. Baltimore and Texas. DeGrom taking on Baltimore. DeGrom's looked pretty rough in 2 out of his last 3. Fantasy points wise, not the greatest in each of his last 4 starts. Baltimore didn't really strike out a whole lot against Evalde last night, which is a bit surprising to me. He did struggle with Baltimore the first time he faced him, but he is at home where he's been pitching at his best. I'm going to go there because I feel like maybe the field might overlook it a little bit after what Evalde couldn't do. Even though Evalde was fine and allowed just 1 earned in 5+ innings, he just didn't rack up any strikeouts. I'm going to play DeGrom thinking that he's going to pick up some strikeouts. Kyle Bradish on the other side, the last couple starts have not been strong for him. He's been better on the road from a fantasy points perspective, but his base runners and walks skyrocket when on the road, which definitely is an issue. There is K upside. We just saw Shane Baz absolutely dominate this Texas lineup, so I do want some exposure. He has a 39 spot this season, so showcasing the upside, and he went back-to-back 39 and nearly 36. His strikeouts have plummeted since those 2 starts, 21 in those 2, and he's got, 23 over his last 6. With that said, I do want to use a little bit of Kyle Bradish. Kevin Williams, Anthony K. Anthony K, not going to get there. We have debated and used him a couple times. He actually hasn't been very bad against Cleveland, so maybe I need to reconsider. A 26 spot at home against Cleveland. Home has been much better 2K than the road. Just 4 home runs allowed in 58 and a third home innings. So maybe I need to reconsider. I'm going to have to dig into Anthony K this afternoon. Maybe he makes the pool, but I just don't love the idea of using him on a 9-game slate. Kevin Williams on the other side, 33+ fantasy points in 3 straight, 4 of the last 5. Double-digit strikeouts in 5 straight starts. The White Sox, obviously a potent lineup that can hit a couple home runs, etc. He put up 12 and then 19.6 in his 2 starts against the White Sox. Just 1 home run allowed in those. Can randomly give up home runs. Pittsburgh got him for 3, but even then, 21 fantasy points while giving up 5 runs. He hasn't been, for the most part this season, hasn't been super clean in games, but 0 runs allowed in 2 out of his last 3. I think he's probably going to end up my number 1 pitcher on this slate. Colorado, St. Louis, Liberatore, and Freeland. I'm just not going to play Kyle Freeland. This 36.6 complete game number at home versus Kansas City. I am not chasing that. That's fine. His road numbers are far worse than his home numbers in Coors. I'm just not going to think he's following it up. It is what it is. Kyle Freeland wins somebody the slate, so be it. On the other side, you get Liberatore coming off of a pretty strong start, 26 plus fantasy points in 3 out of his last 6 starts as well. So he showcased the ability to get it done. Probably pitching, the best he has all season, even though there's some starts in there where he's been horrendous. Fantasy points at home takes a hit, but Colorado against left-handed pitching is a spot where I think we get upside. Especially on the road. Liberatore, I don't play him very often, but Liberatore is going to be somebody I put U.S. currency on this evening. Peter Lambert and Michael King. Lambert, extreme reverse splits from my memory bank. 21 plus fantasy points in 4 of his last 6 starts. Even these 2 that weren't, fantasy point-wise weren't great, but he just allowed 2 earned runs in each of those starts. So it's not like he's been getting destroyed. 2 earned or fewer in 6 straight and 9 of 10. Or 10 of 11 or 11 of 12. I can't add. That's a pretty good stretch. I don't expect him to strike out 10 very often. Now, reverse splits against San Diego could be an issue with Tatis as he's, started hitting some home runs. Machado, Bogarts, I guess. But overall, San Diego's underperformed. So I think Lambert's somebody that's at least somewhat interesting. On the other side, you get Michael King. I might not go to Michael King. He has been at his best when at home, which we get with a lot of pitchers. He just doesn't strike me as an upside play any longer. I want to see more consistent strikeouts. He got to 7. Now he's gone back downhill in each of his last 2 starts. I'm going to have to debate Michael King as the day progresses, and then once I see, how my pitcher pool is shaping up. San Francisco and Detroit, we get, obviously, my favorite ballpark for pitching. Landon Raup, the last 2 have been terrible. Before that, 3 straights of really strong starts. I think Raup's somebody I'm going to mix in. He's pitched pretty well at home. Walk issues are a bit annoying, but Detroit's offense has been alive a bit over the last couple weeks. With that said, I do think Raup is somebody that's capable of getting there for us. On the other side, Jackson Jobe, big time prospect arm, was like the number 3 pick overall in the draft. Coming back from Tommy John, threw 69 pitches in the most recent rehab coming back. He's probably still going to be limited to maybe an 8 tops of 80, 5 innings, 80 pitches, maybe 6 innings, I guess, but I would guess 5 innings. I'm going to utilize him just because I think there's just upside in him. If you told me he was going to throw 70, then I'm going to lose some interest. I think he just has an upside to 80 pitches at this point. Dodgers, D-backs, Thought's throwing the ball pretty well. I don't think I'm getting there, even though the Dodgers have struggled a bit recently. I think I'm just going to pass on Brandon Pfaadt. On the other side, Yamamoto, I don't mind him. I don't love it against Arizona and the fact that they don't really strike out a ton. With that said, I do think Yamamoto's in play. He's been absolutely phenomenal on the road this season. Last game, Tampa Bay and Seattle. Griffin Jack, somebody I'm going to use. I'm going to pick on Seattle with pitching. 22 plus in 3 straight starts. So he's pitching pretty well. 1 earned allowed in 4 out of his last 5. Not really interested in George Kirby. Not a ton of upside from the K standpoint. So, but there we have it. There's a first look at pitching. If you enjoyed it or bring you, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on, get the alert anytime We drop videos here at DFS Army. Hit the link in the description below. Promo code. Join us. Best of luck, everybody.